Okay, so here we've got the legs, we've got the two arms, we've got the head. This is the base that he sits on, and then we've got the spine, and we've got the hips over here. You'll notice that the most complex thing is the spine, because I had to get the shoulders to be part of the spine. You'll notice the way it's once again hard to see, but from there to there, his back really curls around. And in my opinion, that almost looks anatomically incorrect, but at the end of the day, you're making a nice sculpture. You're not making a medical textbook. So it's about it looking good and looking nice, not about necessarily being perfect. So that was the part that maybe I've gone the furthest away from what I'm going to show you in a moment about the finger joints. But you can still see I've used dowel sticks to join these pieces, and I've used nice wedges to get those angles. Something else you'll notice, for example, on the hips, I've said that if I cut a 2.5 degree angle, that gives me a total of 5 degree opening, which is what I measured on the hips over here, because they don't run perfectly parallel, especially if you look from the top. There's a little bit of an opening. So let's speak about the finger joint. The finger joint is basically, at its simplest, it's what I've got over here. So there's one finger and there's another finger, and those fingers can obviously go together like that, or they can go together like that. Something else that you've noticed is on this piece, I've actually modified part of the finger joint so that the bend of the leg can be accommodated. And something else that you'll notice, this finger joint isn't in line. It actually goes over to the right, and this finger joint actually goes over to the left, which is a special thing that I did in the same way that I was describing to you what I was doing over here. It's a way of maintaining the strength of the finger joint with the minimum amount of deviation from this principle that I have decided to use. Besides these two legs and these two forearms, and then maybe the hips, it sounds like they're all an exception. The other finger joints are regular. So I've got the regular negative space, you could call it that, and then the regular positive space. And here, obviously, this whole element is a positive space element, and then this is a negative space element. So that's basically what's happening. You can see I've got the same thing over here, except once again, because his body is twisted, his legs are sort of facing that way, and his head is facing that way. That twist has been accounted for with this gap that I cut over here. So what I'm trying to tell you is there's a basic principle, and then you just modify the principle to get what you want. So that's the principle of the finger joints. And there you can see the whole sculpture, which in my opinion was a fairly accurate representation of that, is now flat packed over here and laid out like that. So in my next video, I'll show you, it's kind of obvious, but you can see I've used 3 pieces of wood. And then that's basically how I've created the finger joint. On these finger joints, I cut them with a saw, but it takes a lot of time and effort to actually cut these. I cut them very roughly, but even to cut them roughly takes time. To cut them accurately takes even more time. It's easier to construct the finger joint by layering instead of by removing. And something else that you would notice, maybe on these, is that the depth of the negative space joint is the same as the width of that and the same as the width of that. So it's basically 1 unit by 1 unit by 1 unit. So actually I'm creating these little cubes at the ends of the things, and that's just always almost like Lego. I'm just trying to make something reproducible. It's like they say, first know the rules and then break them. So this is the rule, and then something like this is the exception to the rule. And maybe something like this ends up looking like the exception to the rule, but the basic idea is there throughout. So in the next video, I'll quickly show you how to make a finger joint out of anything that you have at home. If you have cardboard, if you have polystyrene, if you have balsa wood, you can make these kinds of things at home.